This Film is Lit, the podcast where we finally settle the score on one simple question. Is the book really better than the movie? I'm Brian, and I have a film degree, so I watch the movie, but don't read the book.
And I'm Katie. I have an English degree, so I do things the right way and read the book before we watch the movie.
So prepare to be wowed by our expertise and charm as we dissect all of your favorite film adaptations and decide if the silver screen or the written word did it better. So turn it up, settle in, and get ready for spoilers, because this film is lit. Two little heroes set out on the adventure of a mice time. It's the Rescuers, and this film is lit.
I'm really glad we captured you laughing at your own really bad pun.
It's a great pun.
It's a really bad
How
pun.
dare you? Hello, and welcome back to This Film is Lit, the podcast where we talk about movies that are based on books. We took a little break. Mm-hmm. We reviewed Star Wars, but it's been a couple weeks since we've had a main episode. We're returning with a bang with The Rescuers, the 1977 Disney film. Katie, we do not have a Guess Who this week.
No. All of the descriptions in this book are of mice.
True. So, depending on what some of the descriptions are, I feel like it could work. But let's move right on to Let Me Sum Up.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
You've told me these are pretty different, so you're going to go ahead and do the brief book synopsis. Mm-hmm. Reminder, you read the first two or parts of the second one to prepare, and the whole first one, which is kind of because this is like kind of an amalgamation of stuff, apparently. So, I'm going to plug my ears and listen, and then let you explain The Rescuers, the book.
All right, so book one is The Rescuers, and in this book we are introduced to the Rescue Aid Society, which is a society of mice whose mission is to comfort prisoners. In this book, they embark upon their first rescue mission to free a poet from the dreaded Black Castle. So our heroes, Bernard and Miss Bianca and another mouse named Niall, set out to achieve that end. They are victorious. Everyone is happy. In book two, which is called Miss Bianca sets out to rescue a little orphan girl named Patience from the clutches of the evil Duchess who resides in the Diamond Palace. She is successful. Everyone is happy. Hooray.
So, The Rescuers, the movie, the first one, we're not talking about Down Under here. Pretty straightforward, so I think I can bang through this pretty quick. If you haven't seen it in a long time, obviously spoilers abound, but starts out, a little girl is on a boat in a swamp. She drops a bottle with a note in it, an SOS, into the water. It washes around and is discovered by some mices that live in New York City. They are part of the Rescue Aid Society, which is like a group of international mice that meets in the walls of the UN. And they take up this rescue mission to save this girl or this person who sent this rescue note. They dispatch Bianca and Bernard, who is a janitor. Those are the two that end up going for whatever reason. They end up going. There's lots of hijinks along the way. They meet up with lots of other fun characters. There's not a seagull, but some sort of bird that flies them places. There's a little dragonfly named Evinrude who's like a motor for a boat who drives them around. When they get to the swamp, they run into a bunch of swamp friend creatures. There's like a kangaroo. I don't know what all is going on down in that swamp, but there's all kinds of random animals down there. There's like a turtle and stuff. But they find out that this evil lady Medusa who runs a pawn shop, she has kidnapped this little girl, this orphan Penny, from the orphanage. They met the cat at the orphanage. It's not important. They find out, so they go down to the swamp, and this evil lady Medusa and her partner in crime Snoops, something like that, are using this little girl because she's small enough to fit down into this cave because they're trying to find a big precious diamond And so ultimately the rescuers meet up with Penny, and they help her find the diamond down in the cave. And then after recovering it to Medusa, Medusa is then attacked by all of the people. She double crosses her partner. She's attacked by all of the animals of the swamp. Crazy ruckus nonsense ensues with fireworks and all kinds of stuff. She loses the diamond. She gets stuck in the swamp. Our heroes, Penny and Bernard and Bianca, they get the diamond. They save the day. They get back home. Penny gets adopted. Happy ending. And then Bernard and Bianca are on to their next mission. The end. All right. That was it. That's pretty much it if you haven't seen it in a while. Let's go ahead and ask, because I got lots of questions about things if they were, was that in the book?
Nicholas Flamel is the only known maker of the Philosopher's Stone.
The what?
Honestly, don't you two read?
I want to start with a disclaimer.
Okay.
I read the entirety of the first book.
Okay.
The second book, I read the first half and then skimmed the second half because it got here yesterday.
Yeah, you were on a bit of a short time frame with the second one.
A little bit of a time crunch.
And they're not crazy long, but you were working, obviously, and it was
Yeah.
a bit tight to finish it in time. So you didn't quite get there, but it's all right.
But I skimmed it. I have a good idea of what happened. I might miss a detail here or there. Also, I read these first two books because according to all the sources that I could find, these are what the movie is allegedly based on.
Yeah.
There's also like 9 books in this series, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
So it's totally possible that they pulled from those other
Yeah.
7 books.
All right. Interesting. But supposedly it's based on the first book, is what I thought.
Yeah, the first 2.
The first 2.
Yeah.
Okay. So first thing, the inciting incident is a little girl tossed an SOS into a swamp, and that's what starts our story on its journey.
No.
Okay. Is there an international group of mice that go on rescue missions?
It is a group of mice. It does not seem to be an international group of mice.
Okay.
It appears to be a British group of mice,
Okay.
I think. In the beginning of the first book, their mission is to comfort prisoners. But that book is also about their first attempted rescue mission.
Okay. So they do rescue people.
Yes.
Are they called the Rescue Aid Society?
Yes.
All right. Does the Rescue Aid Society meet in the walls of the UN?
No, but there is an embassy nearby.
Okay.
Miss Bianca comes from the embassy, the Norwegian embassy.
She's Hungarian in the movie, but
Yes.
is that what it is in the book?
No, she's Norwegian in the
Okay.
book.
All right. So there's another difference. So far, nothing is the same. We'll see when I get to more of the actual plot. This is a little moment in the beginning of the film is when they're getting ready to go on the mission. Bianca volunteers, and the leader of the Rescue Aid Society is like, silly lady. No.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Rescue missions are for boys.
Is that casual sexism there in the book? I mean, it is the 70s, so like it's not like it's out of place or anything. I'm just wondering.
There's like a lot to unpack here.
Okay.
Neither the books nor the movie have aged like particularly well in this regard. There's a lot in the book about Miss Bianca being extremely feminine and using her femininity and all like her feminine instincts.
Her feminine mice instincts?
Yes.
Nice.
I think like if I sat and read the books really carefully and like pulled pieces out of them, I think I could probably craft an argument that the author is like saying something with all of that. But I'm not sure that it wholly pans out.
Okay.
I think you could do it. I think you could make that argument.
Yeah.
Would it be a totally valid argument? I don't know.
Okay. So you're saying that, like, that potentially through a reading of the books, you could read it as a...
I think you could potentially read it through a very early feminist lens.
Okay.
Potentially.
And where her using her femininity is a way of her reclaiming her power, but also in the face of the sort of weird patriarchal system that she's operating within. She's like playing the game
kind of.
like kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean,
knows what she's
she
doing.
is the hero
Yeah.
of the books. I mean, Bernard is more of a minor character
Okay.
in these.
Which, yeah, I think is kind of supposed to be what it is
Yeah.
in the movie, but it kind of turns into more of like a two-hander where they're both
Yeah.
kind of leads, but...
And the movie is just kind of casually sexist because it was the 70s.
Yeah.
And that was a thing.
Yeah,
it is
I
a
mean,
thing.
and she does, yeah. She does kind of like scoff at them about it a
Yeah.
little. And-
Although when Bernard is like, I don't think she should go because it's dangerous, for some reason this endears him to her.
yeah, she's
I know,
like, ooh.
she's like, ooh.
He doesn't believe
know,
in me.
Break me off a piece of that.
Yeah. Is Bernard a janitor?
No, he is a member of the Rescue Aid Society. He is actually has like a medal for, I think they called it Valor in the Face of Cats.
Okay. That's, I mean, it's fun, yeah.
He has a medal for doing brave things.
Interesting. I think it is interesting, though, too. It's kind of funny that he's, that switched to a janitor. I don't know if you have it later, if we'll talk about it at all, but that is an interesting choice to make your protagonist like a laborer, a man of the people, as it were. I guess we don't know what the other people do, but they all seem to be like, in the movie, all of the other members of the society seem to be like elites of some sort.
Yeah, I mean, they're all like delegates.
Dignitaries,
they're
yeah.
dignitaries, they're politicians.
Yeah, but he's just like the lowly janitor.
Yeah.
That was interesting. Okay. I liked that. Is the villain of this, of the book, Medusa, the evil pawn shop owner?
No, not a character from the books.
I figured that would be the case. We talked about in the prequel episode that they didn't know who their villain was going to be at first, and then eventually it was going to be Cruella de Vil for a while.
Yeah.
And this was going to be like in the 101 Dalmatians verse or whatever. They have ultimately ended up basing the character off one of the animator's ex-wives. So,
Well, and I don't know if you noticed this. They didn't use Cruella de Vil, but they used a lot of footage of her car.
was that her car? Okay, because
Yeah.
I recognized that.
It's like pulled out of 101 Dalmatians. It's like
Interesting.
exact scenes of her car driving.
Interesting. That's my...
I mean, that was fairly common in this era of Disney
Yeah.
animation. They're
Yeah.
borrowing a lot of stuff to save money.
Yeah. Is there an albatross flight service? That's what it is, an albatross, not a seagull. Because when that albatross flight service scene hit, I realized, and I was starting to get the feeling over the course of the beginning of the movie that I had seen this movie a lot of times as a child. I watched this one a lot when I was like real young, though. Like, it's like I have like the sensory memory of it, not so much like any of the lines or the plot. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I just like remember the scene where they're flying in an albatross, and the scene where he falls into a bottle in the beginning and during the meeting, and like, yeah. It was very strange watching it again.
Almost like a deja vu.
Almost, yeah,
like-
where it's like I don't have a memory of this, but I do.
But boy, does it feel familiar.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is no albatross flight service.
Oh,
I know.
that's disappointing. I like that. Is the bad guy lair in the movie? This is the bad guys hang out, and because they're trying to find this diamond in this cave in the swamp, and their lair in the movie is this old broken down steamboat, which is very like cool bad guy lair-y. Is that in the book?
No, it's not. The books do have some kind of like neat imaginative locations, though. In the first book, they're rescuing someone from the Black Castle, which is like a giant like dungeon castle.
Yeah.
Surrounded by a moat in the middle of a desert somehow.
Wild.
I know. And then in book 2, they have to rescue someone from the Diamond Palace, which is as it exactly sounds.
It's a palace made of diamonds? Wow.
Yeah. I know, it's very luxe.
It's very luxe. Is there... So we know that the villain in the book, or at least the first 2 books, isn't Medusa, the evil pawn shop owner. But does any of the villains have 2 pet alligators?
No. There are 2 guard dogs in book 2 named Tyrant and Torment.
Okay.
So possibly some inspiration
Yeah.
for like the 2 alligator characters.
Yeah, for sure. Does the evil villain have a jet ski?
No jet
A swamp
skis.
jet ski.
No.
That thing was another one of the things that I vividly remember. Like, vividly remembered's not the right word, but like had that weird memory of, because I always thought it would be super fun to drive when I was a little kid. It's like a jet powered swamp jet ski.
It's like a speedboat kind of a thing, right?
They like ride it like they straddle their legs on it like a Sea-Doo.
Yeah.
But it's like jet powered.
Yeah.
/ steam power. It's so weird and cool, and I always thought it was super cool and looked like it would be fun to ride.
Well, the villain doesn't ride a jet ski at all in these books. There is at one point a mouse-sized speedboat that they ride on.
Oh, okay.
So that's like kind of close-ish.
So, but they don't have the dragonfly. I'll skip ahead. The dragonfly speedboat.
No.
Oh,
I know.
Evan Reed's cool. I liked him. It's weird though that a dragonfly has a tongue. I will say that. I'm not sure that follows anatomically.
I think you're probably right, but
he is cute. So this is a weird, just a little thing that are there any characters that have giant jugs of super special secret booze that gives you superpowers a la Popeye? Because that happens several times in this movie.
Yeah.
And it was funny because when we turned the movie on at the beginning, it was on Disney Plus. At the beginning, the little like rating thing popped up in the corner, and the only thing it said was, and I don't even remember this. I guess somebody might smoke a cigarette at some point, but I don't remember it. It said like tobacco use or something. But it didn't say anything about the numerous occasions of people drinking like moonshine and getting superpowers from it. Which I was like, all right.
I don't know. Yeah, it's not in the books. Maybe they just thought they could like get a like not mention it, because they never specifically call it. Like, I mean, it's obvious.
Clearly, like,
yeah,
some sort of moonshine or something. Yeah.
But like to a dumb kid, like maybe a kid wouldn't.
Yes. Well, would a dumb kid know what I guess a dumb. Yeah. I feel like if you're content warning tobacco use, and again, I don't even remember that happening.
Medusa must have had a cigarette at some point. Yeah. I don't remember, but she must have.
Yeah, she must have. Then it just seems so strange to me to not have a note about alcohol.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it is weird.
A plot point in the movie that it's like a good thing.
They don't mark the jug XXX either.
No, they don't.
So maybe they were gonna like make an argument that it's not actually moonshine.
It's just gasoline. It's just literal gasoline.
Straight gasoline. It's just really special juice, you guys.
Yeah, it's just real special swamp juice.
Yeah.
That makes your eyes go crazy and cough, makes you cough. It's not booze though.
It's not fire water at all.
For sure not booze. For sure not. So the whole plot of this movie is that the bad guys steal this orphan, and I couldn't remember in the beginning. I was like, why the heck did they steal an orphan? That's weird. But they steal this orphan so that the orphan can fit down a hole to steal a diamond. Is there any relevance? Is there any connection to something like that in the books that you read?
No. In book 2, Miss Bianca saves an orphaned little girl, but she was kidnapped by the Duchess who lives in the Diamond Palace. Literally just because she wanted someone to abuse.
Oh.
So,
okay.
Yeah, that's fun.
This is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. I think it's like the funniest scene in the movie, and it's another one of those things that I didn't remember that I remembered until I watched it. And that's the scene where the mice, or Bianca and Bernard, end up in the organ, and they start the alligators start playing the organ to get them to blow out the top so they can catch them. That scene is so much fun. Is that in the book?
It's not.
Oh. What a delightful scene. It's so funny watching the alligators, because one, it's stupid that the alligators are playing organ, that they know how it works. I mean, I guess this whole movie's animals doing things animals don't know how to do, but still, there's something about those two dumb alligators, like playing organ and the other one trying to catch them, and then like the way they're like flying up out of the thing is like very whimsical.
It is.
Like, I also like miniature things is another thing this movie reminded me of, is that like when I was a kid, like the idea of little miniature things is always really fun. And this movie has, not that they're miniature, but like, cause they're mice, they're like riding in sardine cans strapped to albatrosses' backs, and that kind of stuff was always like fun to me as a kid.
Yeah, it's neat.
Yeah.
It's creative. I like that scene too.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't like about that scene is when they show close-ups of creepy alligator hands.
Oh, I love it. They're like,
I don't like that. I'm not a fan.
It's great. So, is there quite as much sad, crying orphan in the book? Because holy cow, this movie goes so hard in the paint on the sad orphan. Like, every scene Penny is in, she's just like, I'm so sad and an orphan. Like, the whole, like, over and over, like, every scene. And it's like, okay, we get it.
They go in for a little bit of that in book 2, which is the book with the orphan in it. I would say maybe not quite as much as the movie does.
It's just a little maudlin. It's a little like
it's a little Dickensian.
Yeah,
like being an orphan is her primary trait.
Yeah, like literally, that's her character is she's an orphan.
She's an orphan.
Yeah, she doesn't do anything over the course of the movies. Like she doesn't have any secondary, at least not that I recall. She didn't have any like secondary characteristics.
She's kind of sassy.
Yeah, she does. She kind of, but. She's a little kid, like they're also, but yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah, but like, yeah, being an orphan is like that's her thing. That's who
and a
her
sad
character
one.
is.
Not
yes,
even like
sad.
not even like a quirky like spunky one like Annie or something. Like she's just a sad orphan.
I mean, I too would be sad if I was an orphan kidnapped by villains.
I'm not saying, I don't know. It just felt like they were really leaning into it in a way that felt real cheap and easy. But, you know, it's fine. It is what it is. All right, last question. Is there a whole gang of swamp creatures and do they attack the villain at the end? No
and no.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I feel like I had to tell you that all of your favorite stuff was not from the book.
Well, nothing that I asked you was in the book, so yeah. All right, let's go ahead and talk about what was lost in Adaptation.
Just show me the way to get out of here, and I'll be on my way.
Wow, is it lost?
Yes, and I want to get unlost as soon as possible.
Really just have one question here, and I wanted to see if there was any more background, because it's really kind of rushed through pretty quickly in the movie, and that is the Rescue Aid Society. Do we go and find out any more about this organization in the books, about what they're about, what their deal is, like what's up with them?
It's essentially the same thing, except that their mission initially is to comfort and help prisoners, but not necessarily to rescue them.
Okay.
I think it's meant to be inspired by The Lion and the Mouse from Aesop's Fables.
Because that's what they show on the wall, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what they show on the wall.
Yeah, which I don't know that fable, so I don't.
It's about a mouse who helps a lion, and then the lion doesn't eat him because he helped him.
Oh, fair
basically.
enough. Okay. Yeah, because that's what they mentioned that in the movie, and I just, it's interesting. So were they always called the Rescue Aid Society, even when they were just like comforting prisoners or whatever?
I think it starts as the Prisoners Aid Society.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, did they just decide that they're like, screw this, we're doing something?
I mean, that's kind of what it seems like from book 1 to book 2.
Oh, so that that's where it just switches, like.
Yeah, it kind of like switches. It, like, at least that's what it seemed like to me. When we did the prequel, we talked a little bit about how the first book was supposedly intended to be for adults.
Yeah.
And then, so maybe she just like went full hog in on it when she decided to write them for kids.
Well, I think you could also see, if you decide to make it a series, I think it makes perfect sense that, okay, I can't write a whole series where somebody just goes and like hangs out with a prisoner. And like,
that's fair.
Like,
yeah.
what, I mean, because like, what are the stakes in the first one, in the first book? Like, what's going on?
So,
without getting like crazy in depth, you know what I mean? Like,
in the first book, they find out that a poet is being held prisoner in the Black Castle. And I think it's the chairwoman who puts forth the notion, well, we should actually try to rescue.
Oh, okay. So they do
person.
End up rescuing him in that one, but they don't start with that necessarily.
Right. They don't start with that necessarily as like the goal of their group. Right, so she puts forth the idea that they should try to rescue him because poets are especially complimentary of mice. So they like poets a lot.
And then so they end up rescuing this poet at the end of the first one. And they don't say anything at the end like, now we're the Rescuer Society?
No.
Okay. I don't know. It just seems like they should be like, you know what? From now on, this is what we're doing. It just seems like...
I don't know, man. I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? You read it. I'm just asking if it happened or not. I'm not asking it. Okay.
Well, I don't know what their, like, motivation was. I don't know what their thought process was here.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
They were weird books.
Fantastic. Let's find out what was better in the book.
You like to read?
Oh, yes. I love to read.
What do you like to read?
Everything.
I hate the movie's portrayal of Bernard.
Okay.
I think potentially there's something to be said for making him like a blue collar mouse.
A mouse amongst all this.
A real mouse's mouse.
Or a mouse's mouse. Yeah.
I don't know if that like kind of holds through to the book because they all seem pretty normal in the book, with the exception of Miss Bianca, who is a high society mouse.
Gotcha.
But in the book, he's more like a sturdy farm boy kind of a type. Mm-hmm. Like, he doesn't come from a farm, but, like, that's, like, his archetype.
Yeah.
But, like, he totally believes in Miss Bianca's capability.
Yeah.
And he defends her against other characters who say that she's useless. Unlike movie Bernard, who's really patronizing, and then she likes that for some reason.
Yeah, that was really strange to me.
And also, the movie portrayal of them, like, then the movie goes way harder on them as a couple than the books do. At least in these first two, they kind of, like, have crushes on each other.
Yeah.
But they don't, like, get together. And the movie goes way harder on that.
Yeah.
But the movie also comes way too close to being my least favorite trope ever, maybe in the history of tropes, which is the schlubby hubby and the beautiful wife.
Yeah. Yeah, because, for sure, the way they're mice, but the way they're drawn and sort of portrayed and, like, by the voice, the voice acting and stuff.
They're a sitcom couple.
They're a sitcom couple of him being the bumbling kind of like, ooh.
And then the
schlubby.
Gorgeous wife who's with him for no conceivable reason that the audience can see.
Yeah, which again, it would have made perfect sense in the movie, like you had said with the book, if she had been like, I can go, I can do this, and they're like, woman, no. And Bernard was like, let her go, and then they like make him go with her. Yeah, like as like, oh, okay, you think she can do it? Well, you get to babysit. Like they, which is kind of what happens in the movie. But that's what happens in the movie, except they don't have, or no, she picks him.
Yeah,
that's right. So that's not what happens. Yeah, no. They should make him go with is like, well, if you think she can do it, you'll go. Why don't you go watch her fail? Yeah, But he's like, no, she, that would be interesting. But that's a little too aggressive for 1970s Disney. So
as much as I like the old man cat character in this movie, I like him a lot. I think he's cute,
adorable. He's got a mustache.
There's a mean cat character in the first book who's like a giant evil cat.
Isn't there an evil cat in Down Under? Maybe I'm misremembering.
There's an evil iguana.
It's been a long time since I've seen, and I don't think I saw Down Under as many times as I saw the first one, but I could be wrong. So I don't remember. So okay.
But there are a couple of fun scenes in that first book where Miss Bianca just like outsmarts him and like runs circles around him, which I think could have been interesting. Yeah. To watch her character do.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of. I guess that's one of the things is that they don't do a lot in this movie. Really,
yeah, and there's a lot more of like, particularly of her being pretty competent. Yeah. In these books, and like sometimes she's getting lucky. Yeah. Sure, but she's also pretty competent.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie doesn't really have as much of that. Like, it feels like a lot of the time it's like it's there's like it's like luck or like.
I mean, the kid comes up with the whole plan for them to escape.
Yeah, at the end of it, like, the kid comes up with the plan, and then, like, all the animals show up and, like, end up kind of saving everything. Like, they don't do a whole lot. Yeah, it is interesting.
Some rescuers.
Yeah.
They don't even do that much rescuing.
They really don't. I mean, well, they do rescue the one person they're trying to rescue, but it's hardly their own doing.
See you, Disney. We're out here poking holes in your plot.
Maybe they do more rescuing in Down Under. I don't remember.
I don't remember
Maybe they're more
either.
competent.
So if I'm being honest, I generally thought the books were kind of boring, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. But there were some elements, particularly from the second book, that I think would have been cool to see in animated form. I think the Diamond Palace could have been cool. That book also has Clockwork Ladies in Waiting, like some real like
I don't know what
Doctor
that means.
Who.
Oh,
stuff.
like
yeah, they're like
what's the word for
clockwork
automatons or something?
I don't know.
Like that?
They're clockwork robots,
Yeah,
basically. So I thought that could have been cool.
Yeah, that would be creepy and cool.
Yeah.
All right, that was it for better in the book. Let's move on and talk about what was better in the film.
My life has taught me one lesson, Hugo, and not the one I thought it would. Happy endings only happen in the movies.
I thought starting with Penny and then following the bottle was a good call. It creates some mystery. You don't know who she is, why she's sending SOS messages.
Yeah.
And then it helps set up what the Rescue Aid Society is going to be about, rather than having to like exposition it a whole lot, which is what happens in the book.
Yeah.
Like we spend like the first chapter or so explaining what this society is and like kind of the history of it.
Yeah. Yeah, you just kind of jump right into the movie. They
Yeah.
get the message and they're like, let's go help them.
Yeah.
And you don't even need to spend that much time because they're literally called the Rescue Aid Society and they get a letter for help. So you're like, I'm on it. I got it.
Right.
Let's go.
I also thought that making it more like the UN was kind of interesting. I think there were definitely some questionable ethnic portrayals.
1977.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it is more interesting than just like a bunch of British mice.
Yeah, I think to at least include that, it was. Now none of them do anything. Like, they're just there in the beginning and then at the end, I guess technically.
Yeah.
But so it's not like there's a lot. Again, no, I don't remember if Down Under does anything extra with any more of the characters.
Yeah, I don't
kind
remember.
of coming on the adventure or whatever. But yeah, I thought it was fun that it was in the UN. Like it was literally like just in the walls of the UN. Again, that's like that little. There's something about that is like that thing that's just like fun when you're a kid.
The miniaturized version of the people thing.
Yeah, it's magical.
I liked the investigative element of the movie.
Oh yeah, at the beginning. When
It kind of gives it kind of a serial like police show vibe where they're like going to the different locations and looking for clues.
Yeah,
it's like a gentle episode of SVU.
Yeah, it's like the world's sweetest SVU episode.
With mice. A couple quick things. Orville, the albatross airplane.
It's great.
Dragonfly speedboat. Guard alligators. Penny the orphan has way more sass than Patience the orphan. Patience the orphan. How's that?
That is a heck of a. That's J.K. Rowling level on the nose.
Right?
Naming of your characters.
The scene where the alligators play the organ is really fun. I think it is a little bit like filler material.
I don't think it's filler. It's an action. It's a set piece. It really is kind of like a set piece.
I feel like there's a lot of filler in this movie generally. It's like overall.
It is. And that was one of my notes. I was gonna have an odds and ends, but let's talk about it now. I said it is like a super simple. And now a lot of the older Disney movies are pretty simple, but like whereas some of the newer movies have much more epic. Sort of tales.
Right, and this one is from a pretty specific era of Disney.
Yeah.
Where they were putting out very cheaply produced.
Yeah. And you could tell it doesn't look, there's some interesting like visual stuff at times, but it's not as gorgeous. Some
of the paintings, like the background paintings are interesting.
Yeah, are really cool.
But like overall, it kind of looks like a really well produced episode of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, and some of the animations of characters are definitely like seem pretty like. And now again, I haven't watched a lot of old Disney to like compare how like some like the similar era stuff.
There was a lot of like borrowing and rotoscoping in this era.
Yeah, it just looked a lot of it looked not quite as like you didn't spend quite as much, like a little bit more like first second drafty and just go with it versus like refined animations that they spend a lot of time on.
Something interesting too, actually speaking of borrowing animation. we did a listener's choice for this one. We had The Rescuers, 101 Dalmatians, and Bambi.
Yeah.
We already talked about the animation that they borrowed from 101 Dalmatians, but they also borrowed animation from Bambi.
Oh, did they?
When she's looking out over the swamp and there's the 2 deer.
Oh.
That's Bambi and his mom.
I didn't even notice that. That's hilarious.
So in a way, we hit all
touched
three
all
movies
three
here.
of the movies that we had. It's like you did that on purpose.
I wish I could say I had done that on purpose. You know what? I did. I did do that on purpose. Back to my list. I thought there's lots of intrigue to having there be a pirate cave.
Yeah,
It's fun. It's like a adventure story kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Goonies kind of a thing.
Yeah. It is like a fun like adventure serial. Where like, oh, we gotta get the diamond from the cave.
And I thought the movie had a better escape than either of the books did. Like, there's a lot of like goofy, cartoony, like chasing back and forth that's not particularly interesting.
Yeah.
But overall, the escape scene at the end of the movie is more interesting and suspenseful than what either of the books gave us. Like, in the first book, they kind of just walk out.
Okay.
Like, they get really lucky and they arrive... well, I guess they're there for a while, but they find out that there's going to be this like huge feast and all of the guards are going to be like drunk and like too full to move. So they end up like they just wait for that to happen and then they just like leave.
Great.
Basically.
Nailed it.
And the second book is a little more interesting than that, but it's really just like an extended chase scene without a lot of variation. So I thought that what the movie did with the fireworks and
the fireworks and trapping the
alligators and there's
in the
like a lot
cage.
of like multiple elements and characters doing different things.
Yeah, and then they get on the boat and they're driving around and she's water skiing and then
it's more interesting overall.
Cool. All right, let's talk about a couple things that the movie nailed.
As I expected, practically perfect in every way.
These were all very different things.
Yeah.
The basic premise, a society of mice who stage a rescue mission to help an orphaned girl.
Yeah.
They got it.
That part, sure.
Yeah. They also really nailed how infatuated everyone is with Miss Bianca. She's a very sexy mouse.
Very
attractive mouse.
The Lola Bunny of her day.
Yes.
I wonder if there are like boomers with the same infatuation for Bianca as there are millennials with the infatuation for Lola Bunny.
But throughout both of these books, they were at times uncomfortable to read.
What?
Because there were like extended descriptions of how beautiful and alluring Miss Bianca is.
Who wrote this book? Who wrote these books?
Were you
What's the name of this author?
in love with this mouse?
Marjorie Sharp. Is Marjorie Sharp the world's first furry? Do we have the world's first furry?
I think you could probably look further back and find more examples.
Probably not the world's first furry.
Of furries, but I wouldn't remove it as a possibility.
Fantastic.
Let me just hang on a minute.
Yeah, I say you gotta hit me with one of these.
This is our first encounter with Miss Bianca. They send Bernard to find her.
Okay.
She is a pet mouse, and she lives with the son of the ambassador. Her loveliness took Bernard's breath away. She was very small, but with a perfect figure, and her sleek, silvery white coat had all the soft richness of ermine. But her chief point of beauty was her eyes. The eyes of most white mice are pink. Stop it. Ooh. But Miss Bianca's were deep brown. In conjunction with her snowy head, they gave her the appearance of a powdered beauty of the court of Louis XV. And this kind of thing just goes on and on and on.
Oh, that's great. I love it.
That's all that the movie nailed. I'm done with that list.
Fantastic. Let's move on and hit a few odds and ends before the final verdict.
I thought, as is often the case with Disney movies, the villain is the most interesting part of this movie.
Yeah. No, I think so too. She's
a good villain.
She's a good villain. She could have had more screen time than she
for
gets,
sure.
which she gets a fair amount, but like we spend a lot of time with just the rescuers kind of, investigating and going about their thing. We could have even had more time with her because she is interesting and over the top.
Yeah, she's the kind of villain that I enjoy, which is someone who is very off-putting, but also like I've met that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that person.
Yeah.
That person exists. And you can tell that she's evil by the way that she packs her suitcase.
Oh, yeah. Only psychopaths pack their suitcase by just hurling stuff into it.
She just comes out with an armful of nonsense and drops it all in.
Yep.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah. And that was funny at the beginning. So we talked about how this is based on the first two books. And the way that they credit it in the opening credits of this movie is the title comes up, The Rescuers or whatever, and it says, quote, suggested by the rescuers and Miss Bianca.
Suggested by?
Yeah, suggested by.
I didn't notice that. That's amazing.
Is that like the 1970s way of saying loosely
very
based
loosely
on, very
inspired
loosely inspired by?
I think so. I think we should use that more often.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we've done a lot of adaptations on here where it would be more accurate to say suggested by.
Yeah, suggestive of.
There was a central idea and we ran with it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the LaCroix adaptation of this.
Somewhere in another room in another building, the book was
there
shouting
while we were writing it.
So I made a note about Bernard and his superstitious number 13 thing.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what that was about, and I couldn't
doesn't
remember if it paid off in any way.
It did not, right?
It doesn't, no.
No.
He just, like, for the first half of the movie, he's, like, always counting his steps, and he's like, 13, that's unlucky. We should take the train instead.
Yeah.
And then just nothing
comes of it. Yeah, I was really, like, waiting for that, and then... No. It's mentioned a couple more times, but it doesn't pay off in any real way, which was disappointing. That was funny, though, the opening credits sound like a Bond song. It was such a weird, like a weird tone for like a kid's adventure movie. It felt like that this, because really, if you go back and you listen to the opening credits, if you pull up your Disney Plus, it's a Bond song. It's like a Bond song, but it's like, it's very strange to me. Over matte paintings, over just like literal like still
they're just still paintings. There are a couple songs. Is it the same woman, do you think?
I think it might be,
sings?
yeah.
Did they just like hire, just like sing whatever you want and we'll put it in the movie?
Yeah, it didn't really feel like it fit the like vibe of the film.
Yeah.
Again, they all kind of sound like strange like 70s like
it's almost
ballady,
like loungy kind of.
Yeah, like
it's
Bond.
Weird.
Bond credit songs. It was very interesting.
So one point when the mice show up, Penny asking the real questions in this movie. She's like, "Didn't you bring somebody big with you, like the police?"
They're like, "Hey,
she's got the real questions here."
We're mice. We're mice. We got. Calm down. That's racist. The speciesist. Is her teddy bear supposed to be Winnie the Pooh? Penny's teddy bear?
I don't know.
Because that could not look more like Winnie the Pooh. It looks pretty much like Winnie the Pooh, except without the red shirt.
Why wouldn't they just make it Winnie the Pooh then? Because Disney owns Winnie the Pooh.
I don't know.
Disney owns everything.
Well, I think it is Winnie the Pooh. They just didn't say it. I think that's why it looks that much like it. I think it's supposed to be, but they just didn't like... It was more like an Easter egg thing.
Maybe.
Is what it felt like to me, because it looks so much like Winnie the Pooh.
It's such a specific era of Disney movie.
What is the Pat Buttram era?
The Pat Buttram era is what I've decided to call this era of Disney movie. He voices the swamp critter who has the jug of moonshine.
Oh.
And he's in, like, he has, like, some role in... darn near every animated feature like from this era. Like he has a role in Robin Hood. He's in the Aristocats. He's in The Fox and the Hound. That's all I can think of off of the top of my head.
Yeah, but those are all like my least favorite Disney movies.
You don't like Robin Hood?
I don't know if I've ever seen Robin Hood, but
I
Aristocats doesn't do
Robin Hood
anything
a
for
lot.
me from what I remember. I never liked Fox and the Hound because it was just too sad.
I don't love The Fox and the Hound. I like Aristocats.
I don't remember a lot about Aristocats.
I have like nostalgia
Yeah.
for the Aristocats because I used to watch it with my siblings a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked this one because I remember
Yeah.
watching this one a lot, but
it is it's a specific era of Disney movie, and I think it's an era that's like a little bit harder to watch as an adult.
yeah.
Like a lot of these, like I don't know if I would enjoy this movie if I didn't have like a childhood fondness for it.
Yeah, I don't know if I would either, to be
I
fair.
think
That was a
I
lot
might-
of what I was...
I think I might enjoy parts of it,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I would enjoy it overall. Like some other eras of Disney movie, I think are just a little more richly layered than this
sure.
one. There's more going on.
Oh, for sure. Thematically, there's just nothing going on in this movie.
Storytelling wise,
Yeah.
even visually.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. I was... Because that was one of my biggest things. It's like, I enjoyed watching it again when we just now because, again, I was remembering things. I was, like, remembering what I would remembered about it. But yeah, there's not like thematically, like I said, there's nothing really interesting going on, like at all. Like it's like, greed's bad, and orphans, you'll eventually find a home. If you
I mean, yeah, that's
do a
as
thing,
close
like-
as we get to themes, but they're LaCroix themes.
Yeah, they're yeah. It's nothing to it. It's
Yeah.
just it didn't do a lot on that front for me. Which is like you said. I think when you're watching as an adult, you're looking for more depth in that regard. And
you're
there's
a
not
little
lot
bit
there.
more to chew on.
Yeah. Well then, final verdict. Let's do it.
Now, are you ready for your sentence?
Sentence? But there must be a verdict first.
Sentence first, verdict afterwards.
So I'm gonna give this one to the movie. It's got a lot of issues, like namely some things that haven't aged well.
Yeah.
And like we were just talking about, I think it is a little bit harder to watch as an adult, which is not an issue necessarily, but it is something that I think can affect your enjoyment of it. However, I think if we tallied up marks,
Yeah.
I think the movie overall has more intriguing elements than the books do.
Yeah.
The books have some intriguing elements, but overall I thought they were kind of boring.
Okay.
I think the movies were maybe a little bit more imaginative.
Okay.
And then if you couple that with like the awkward pseudo-sexual descriptions of a mouse, like if it was just the one description of her at the front, sure, fine.
Yeah.
But it just keeps happening for no reason
Okay.
throughout both books.
I could see that definitely would be a lot, especially because you're expecting a kid's book, and then it's like this
Yeah.
kind of sexualization is a little strange
It's
for
a
what
little oof.
you're. Okay, if you say so, I'll take your word for it. It sounded like a sexy mouse to me, so. So we're going with the movie for The Rescuers. That's going to do it for this episode. As always, you do us a great big favor by rating and reviewing us on iTunes or anywhere else you listen to us. You can also do us a great big favor by supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/thisfilmislit. If you subscribe for at least $5 a month, you will get access to our bonus episodes. We've talked about The Witcher, The Mandalorian, Knives Out. I released that to everybody just as kind of a preview, but a handful of other things. We've released, 4 or 5 episodes so far on the patron bonus feed, and we'll have more coming in the very near future. So yeah, support us on patreon.com/thisfilmislit, and it's super great if you do that. Katie, what's coming up next?
Well, coming up next is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. I'm very excited about it. We are staying in the realm of animation, but I think it's going to maybe be a little bit more for us to tackle.
Okay.
We are going to be talking about Howl's Moving Castle.
Ooh, this is one I did not know was based on a book.
Yeah.
And this is a Miyazaki that I have not seen.
Yeah.
Because I've only seen 2. Yeah. Howl's Moving Castle. All right, I've heard good things about this. I've heard good things about everything.
I've heard good things about the movie and the book, so I'm really excited about this.
Cool. Me too. That'll be really fun. This is a definitely... do you know, and I'm putting you on the spot, and you may not know, and if you don't, just say, I don't know. Are there any other Miyazaki films that are based on books?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Okay. We'll look into that, and we'll
Yeah.
see, because this could be interesting if there were more we could do. Maybe if there's a book for Spirited Away, I want to read it so that maybe I'll understand what that movie's about. And then I'll like it.
Think there is. I think it's more based on like folklore, but I could be wrong.
There's my controversial hot take for this episode. I don't get Spirited Away at all. I need to watch it again, but the one time I watched it, I did not understand why it is so beloved. It's got some really cool animation and some interesting ideas, but I just didn't get it, and I wasn't sure what I was supposed to get from it. Anyways, somebody was probably furiously typing what I'm supposed to get from. I have to rewatch.
All of our comments on this episode are going to be explaining Spirited Away.
I need to rewatch it. I'm not saying I did not saying it was bad or that I disliked it. It just didn't. And I think part of it was that I not too far long before that watched Kiki's Delivery Service, which I thought was delightful and I loved. And then Spirited Away, I was just like, this is just strange, and I don't understand what the message is. So, but anyways, that's a discussion for another time. Thank you again until 2 weeks from now when we discuss Howl's Moving Castle. To all of you guys, gals, non-binary, and everybody else,
keep reading books,
keep watching movies, and keep being awesome.